Welcome to Movie Rundown. Today, we are going to take a look at the movie Magellan. If you're ready, let's begin. Humanity's brightest minds gather, and we learn that they have decided to search for the answer to the question of where we came from on a cosmic scale. And we hear the big questions about the existence of extraterrestrial life. We see a group of astronauts on a mission, and NASA contacts a man named Nelson on Earth and informs him that he has a mission briefing. Nelson is overjoyed and embraces his wife. Nelson joins the briefing, and they tell him that there is a recurring signal disturbance at regular intervals, and they play the sound for him. This sound is a kind of music, and it is coming from the solar system. The first one is from Saturn's moon Titan, the second one from Neptune's moon Triton, and the third one is being broadcast from the dwarf planet Eris. Nelson can't make sense of what he's heard and wonders why they are receiving such signals now. They tell him that they will go there to solve this mystery. After accepting this 10-year journey, Nelson's wife becomes very angry with him, but Nelson calmly explains to her that this is what he wants. He then enters a sleep machine that will put him to sleep for a very long time. When Nelson wakes up, he is in a terrible state, and an artificial intelligence named Ferdinand greets him. Nelson is approaching Saturn and opens his tablet to read the 229 messages he has received. He wants to play chess a bit, but doesn't seem very happy. He learns that he has 10 minutes left until he enters orbit, so he sits in the pilot's seat and manually puts the ship into orbit. Then he sits back and receives a message from Becker, informing him that there is a problem with his wife, but Becker doesn't tell him more to avoid stressing him out. Nelson lands on the moon Titan. Another artificial intelligence named Neil tells him that he will accompany him on the surface, and Neil's tone of voice is very eager. Nelson enters turbulence and lands on Titan in a highly stressful manner, and he gets out of his ship and starts walking. He puts his bag on the ground and takes out a device to survey the area. With this device, he learns the exact location of the signal and continues walking. Meanwhile, he receives information about an approaching storm from Neil, but Nelson is too close. He sees that the signal is coming from within the lake and asks Neil if his suit is waterproof. Neil tells him that it won't be a problem, and Nelson starts walking towards the lake. He looks around directly above the signal but sees nothing until a black sphere appears on the ground. As the storm approaches, Nelson quickly takes the sphere, gathers his belongings, and boards the ship. However, Neil tells him that they need to wait until the storm is over before taking off. Nelson is forced to accept this and waits for the storm to pass. Nelson takes the black sphere and examines it. When he touches the sphere with his bare hand, it emits lights, and Nelson sees an image related to space. Feeling tense, Nelson puts the sphere back and returns to the main spaceship, Magellan. He opens Becker's message, and Becker congratulates him on the discovery but tells him not to touch the object. Nelson records a message where he admits that he has already touched the object and that it reacted to his touch. He then tests the sample he took from the lake and waits. Nelson learns that there is amino acid in the sample from the lake, which surprises him. Meanwhile, he receives a message from his wife, Abigail, who tells him that her computer at home was hacked by Chinese hackers who wanted to gather information about the mission. She also tells him that she misses him. 32 months later, Nelson wakes up and enters Triton. Ferdinand tells him that there has been a change in the signals of the sphere while Nelson was asleep. And Nelson is surprised because it is strange to dream during artificial sleep. Nelson reads the messages and learns that there was a hacking attempt by the Chinese, and he becomes cautious with Ferdinand. He then takes the black sphere and places it on the table, starts a video recording, and when he touches the sphere, it shines again and shows him specific images. Nelson sends the images to NASA. He receives a message from Becker, informing him that the Chinese spacecraft on a space mission crashed due to a mechanical failure, and it is believed that all 3 crew members died. Nelson lands on Triton and looks tense as he climbs the mountains towards the signal. When Nelson reaches the source of the signal, he finds another black sphere and immediately puts it in his bag. He starts climbing, but he drops his bag and goes back to retrieve it. The situation is that time is running out and the pressure in his suit is dropping. Nelson climbs with all his strength and enters the ship, and immediately sets off. Later, while examining the samples he collected from Triton, Nelson receives a message from Abigail. Abigail tells him that it has been more than 4 years and that she misses him a lot. She also shares how her life has been going. Ferdinand informs Nelson that he has observed moving objects on Triton. Nelson cannot come to a definite conclusion whether these objects are living or inanimate. Then the NASA administrator sends a message to Nelson, warning him not to touch the black spheres again, and informs him that his wife will no longer be able to send him messages. Nelson seems to be angered by this situation, as he immediately puts the black spheres on the table and touches one, then the other, and even touches both at the same time. This time, he doesn't only see pictures, but also experiences long-lasting visions. Nelson arrives at his final destination, Eris, and finds the sphere there as well, but this sphere contains a strange liquid. When he looks back at where he came from, he sees an egg and shouts to Neil that they found it. Then he returns to the ship. While Nelson is on the ship, he talks to Ferdinand, but he realizes that there is something wrong with Ferdinand. Then Ferdinand starts speaking in Chinese, and Nelson, in an incredible tension, clears Ferdinand's cache, even performs a few more operations to make sure there is no hacking attempt. Afterwards, he has the sample he found tested by Ferdinand and learns that it contains DNA. Nelson goes crazy and is at a loss about what to do with this discovery that proves the existence of extraterrestrial life. Nelson sends a message to NASA and Abigail, and also warns NASA about the possibility that Ferdinand may have been taken over by the Chinese. Then Nelson puts the 3 spheres in front of him and touches all of them. He sees different images, and then the electricity starts malfunctioning because it is caused by radio signals. Nelson records these radio signals by taking all 3 spheres in his hands and learns that these signals are coming from millions of places. He also learns that there is another signal coming from a very distant location, and it will take 38 years to reach there. Nelson prepares the sleep bed for his return home. The lights of the 3 spheres have gone out, and he starts a video recording. In the video, he apologizes to Abigail and tells her that he will not return. He explains to her that there is an option to refuse and closes the video. With messages saying, "Come back," from NASA and Abigail, Nelson puts himself to sleep and sets off towards the source of the signal, and the movie ends here. If you enjoyed the content, please consider liking and subscribing to show your support. By doing so, you'll stay updated with future content and help us reach a wider audience. Your support means a lot to us.